Get out, now! I woke up to my husband screaming. Bleary-eyed, I sat up in bed, glancing around anxiously, thinking something had happened, but everything was silent. Huh? What's going on? Turning around, I saw my husband, who had been shouting, was still in a dream. Could it be sleep talking? My husband Liam often talks in his sleep. This wasn't the first time I've been awakened by his late-night chatter, but today's words were a first, and I couldn't help but let out a wry laugh. What's this about? Get out? Then, as if responding to my words, my husband started to say something shocking. Upon hearing it, I trembled. Could this really be happening? That's how I, a woman who had spent 40 years with her husband until retirement, decided to get a divorce. My name is Vida, and I'm 63 years old. Liam and I have a son, but he moved out 5 years ago after getting married. We finished raising our child without any major incidents, and despite some ups and downs, I thought we were getting along pretty well as a couple. My husband is supposed to retire next month on his birthday. Back when we were in our 50s, we'd laugh and say things like, after retirement, let's move to a rural area in the mountains and try farming. We could ski all winter. Or, it'd be nice to travel around the US in a camper van. But as retirement approached, those kinds of conversations stopped altogether. Of course, I didn't really want to ski all the time at this age, but we're still physically fit, and I thought it'd be nice to travel together. So, I was considering celebrating my husband's retirement by staying at a fancy inn we wouldn't normally go to, and I was in the middle of looking up various places online. But then, get out, now! The words he said in response to my comments after that sleep talk were unbelievable. Emberlyn, my wife, has found out about the affair. It'll be bad if she comes. My soundly sleeping husband was gripping the blanket, groaning and moving his head. Emberlyn? The moment I heard that name, I started shaking with anger. If things go on like this, our plan will be ruined. His sleep talk continued. Is that so? Then I'll really ruin that plan for you. I'd been with him for 40 years, and I thought we were about to start a peaceful new chapter of our lives, but from that day on, I found myself heading in a direction I'd never thought of before: divorce. The next morning, my husband woke up at his usual time and was eating the breakfast I'd prepared for him as if nothing was amiss. You were talking in your sleep more than usual last night. Really? I've been busy with work handovers and such. Maybe I'm stressed. You have to take care of your health to do a good job until the end. Yeah. He seemed to have no recollection of last night. I deliberately spoke to him in a softer tone than usual, and unlike normal, I saw him off at the front door as he left for work. It's unusual for you to see me off. Well, your retirement is coming up soon, so every now and then. Right. I'm off then. I'll be working late today, but I'll be back by the last train. Then you won't need dinner. Yeah. My husband slammed the door shut. I locked the door from the inside and waited a while, making sure his footsteps were fading away. I wonder if he's really working overtime. Now I've got to hurry. I began searching the house for evidence of his affair. When I checked each pocket of my husband's suits in the closet, I found a crumpled piece of paper. I found it, just as I thought. It was clearly a suspicious hotel receipt. He probably paid in cash to avoid leaving a record with a card payment, but it's pointless if he doesn't dispose of it. There were several similar receipts, and the most recent one was dated 2 days ago. He said he was working overtime the day before yesterday, and he didn't come home until midnight. Since hearing his sleep talk last night, I was prepared for the infidelity, but when the evidence actually surfaced, I found myself crying without realizing it, shaken by the reality. Why, you said you'd broken up. I believed that. The truth is, my husband had cheated once before, 10 years ago. I'm sorry, it was just a momentary lapse of judgment. Madam, we will never meet again. Please forgive us. When their affair was exposed, they apologized, prostrating themselves. Emberlyn, the woman he was cheating with, was a decade younger and a subordinate at work. Apparently, my husband had started to sympathize with Emberlyn, who was struggling with a divorce and raising a child, and while he was consulting with her, they somehow ended up in such a relationship. The affair came to light when my sister happened to see the two of them arm in arm, disappearing into a hotel district. Soon after, I heard that Emberlyn had quit her job and returned to the countryside, so I believed that their relationship had ended. Of course, there was a lingering resentment deep in my heart. However, at that time, our son, a senior in college, was job hunting, and I was worried that our divorce might affect him, so I endured it. There was also a part of me that was completely reassured that this man, who had been with me all this time, couldn't seriously abandon me. And I kept telling myself that we could start over from now on. So, you've been deceiving me for 10 years since then? My hand clutching the hotel receipt trembled violently. I will never forgive this. It's not just a divorce. Remember that. When I searched through his bag and drawers, I found brochures of inns I'd never been to and aquarium tickets, but they didn't prove that Emberlyn was the other woman. Oh, right. I pulled out a laptop that had been stored away in the closet. It was something my husband had bought a few years ago with the intention of starting a side business. However, after a while, he only played games on it, and once he realized that he could do that just fine on his phone, he stopped using it altogether. I'd borrowed it a few times, so I knew the password. As expected, the computer started up easily, and I opened up my husband's emails. Because he uses a free email service and had it set up so that he could check his emails from both his phone and his computer, I figured I could still see the contents of their exchanges, even though he doesn't use the computer anymore. Once I retire, I'll leave my wife and we can live together. Shockingly, that was what was indeed written in the emails he had sent. I've told my wife that I won't get much retirement money due to the recession, and she completely bought it, so let's use that money to buy an apartment. My husband works at a major company, and a few years ago he happily said, "It seems like I'll get more than $260,000 for my retirement money." That reminded me of how he recently started saying something different. The company's performance is deteriorating, and it seems like I won't get much retirement money. So, how much will you get? Maybe around $60,000 at best. It wasn't his fault the company was doing poorly, and when he told me this with a dejected look on his face, I couldn't say anything more at the time. We have some savings, and adding our 2 pensions together, wouldn't we be able to manage somehow? Ever since that day, I spent my days looking at the household accounts and punching numbers into a calculator. After my husband's retirement, we planned to go to the movies and eat out once a month, take a few trips a year, and so on. If we pared back our envisioned post-retirement life a bit, well, quite a bit, we'd probably be able to manage. I'll try to get more hours at my part-time job. I feel bad, but I guess my husband will have to work part-time while he's still healthy. What was all that worrying for? Does your wife really have no idea about us? Even if she finds out, she'll forgive me if I apologize. It was the same 10 years ago. She believes we completely broke up then, so it's fine. Ha 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 ha. The email was filled with words that seemed to mock me. I'll get $260,000 as retirement money, but I told my wife I'd only get $60,000. So when we divorce, I'll just give her half of that, $30,000. $30,000 should be more than enough for your wife. On the day of my retirement, I'll hand her the divorce papers. Then we can start our new life in the apartment we bought yesterday. Seeing a heart symbol in the email of my soon-to-be 65-year-old husband made me feel sick. An apartment they bought yesterday? When I checked my husband's bank account online, I saw a transfer of $50,000 to a real estate agent the day before the email was sent, and there was hardly any money left. An already completed love nest? I'm astounded. My anger gradually turned into emptiness, and my mind began to clear. I'll grant your wish and divorce you, and I'll do it in a way that benefits me as much as possible. I continued to use the internet to search various things about divorce. Ah, I see. I can also get consolation money from the mistress. It seemed that the affair from 10 years ago was past its statute of limitations, but if it had continued since then, that's a different story. Come to think of it, I have it. I rummaged through the closet and pulled out the diary I had written 10 years ago. I turned the pages and found a piece of paper I had inserted at the date when the affair was exposed. Just as I thought. After glancing through the contents and grinning, I immediately called the law firm I had been researching online. I was determined to accomplish everything without him noticing by his birthday, which is also his retirement date. A few days later, my husband came home unusually early and looked around the room. It seems like a lot of stuff is missing lately. I've been throwing out things we don't need. It's quite the trend now. I had already decided where to move after the divorce and had been gradually moving my stuff. I was inwardly panicked, thinking he might have noticed, but my husband, who seemed to have lost interest in me, didn't seem to understand anything. Hey, my mother wants to rebuild her house, so I've decided to help her with our savings. What? Of course, I've given all my savings to my mother. It can't be helped if it's still not enough. But we have our future life to consider too. You're working part-time, so it should be fine. But then we'll have almost no savings left. It's okay, we'll get $60,000 as retirement money. He's probably trying to decrease our shared property to minimize the amount he has to give me. But I never thought he would resort to such a petty tactic. Well, I was planning to take you to a fancy hot spring inn to celebrate your retirement. Huh? I don't need that. Why not? Well, it's pointless to travel with you at this point. I didn't miss the momentary look of discomfort on my husband's face. Of course, he wouldn't think of going on a trip with me, whom he plans to hand divorce papers to on his retirement day. After retiring, I was thinking about doing various things like traveling around just the two of us, skiing and so on. You know, it's what you were talking about before. As I deliberately spoke in a bright voice, my husband became even more sullen. What can you do? Are you saying we should live in luxury while my mother has to endure hardship? That's not what I'm saying. I just wanted to enjoy a peaceful time together after your retirement. My husband grimaced and fell silent. Up until recently, I was serious about that. But guess what? I don't want to go with you anymore either. Too bad. I bitterly muttered to myself inside my heart. Then came my husband's retirement day. I prepared a feast on the table and set off a cracker as soon as my husband walked into the room. In contrast to my beaming smile, my husband had a cold, mask-like expression on his face. Congratulations on your retirement. Let's get divorced. What? You're kidding. Having simulated this moment over and over in my head, I dramatically feigned shock and began to sob like an actress. I'm sorry, I'll give you half of the $60,000 retirement allowance as a property settlement, so please forgive me. We don't have any other shared property. No, I don't want a divorce. I'm sorry. With that, my husband left the house. All that was left was a divorce paper with my husband's name already filled in. Well then, on to the next plan. As I promptly filled in my name on the divorce paper, I raised a toast and ate the feast alone. The next day, I was standing in front of a luxury apartment that my husband had reportedly bought with another woman. When I pressed the room number at the entrance, a woman's voice responded. You're Emberlyn, right? Liam's wife? Ah! The surprise in her voice was so unexpected that I had to stifle a laugh. Is your husband home? Could we come in? No way! Go home! You two don't have the right to refuse us. Huh? What do you mean? Who do you think the woman with me is? She's a lawyer. What? Would you prefer to discuss this right now or go to court? Through the monitor, my husband Liam appears, and the two of them are having some sort of discussion. Do you want us to come in or continue talking here at the entrance? If we keep this up, all the neighbors will know about your wrongdoings. Are you okay with that? Fine, come in. And so I stormed into the love nest of my foolish husband and his mistress, accompanied by a lawyer. Once inside, my husband bombarded me with questions like, how did you find out? And, how did you investigate this place? But I ignored them all. Then, the lawyer next to me presented a divorce agreement to the two of them. Property division, $195,000. Consolation money, $195,000. A total of $390,000. What the hell is this? Seeing the contents, Liam and Emberlyn were left with their mouths agape. There's no way we have that much money. Why not? Retirement payment of $260,000, $80,000 given to your mom, and $50,000 for the down payment on this apartment. If you add it all up, it's exactly $390,000. Please pay promptly. I told you my company's retirement payment was only $60,000. It's too bad you tried to trick me. The lawyer has already contacted the company and investigated. All of this is shared marital property. The lawyer next to me nodded in agreement. Emberlyn, we're also asking you for $50,000 in consolation money. I don't have money either. If you don't have money, you can't pay. Please forgive me, I'm begging you. Suddenly, my husband knelt down in apology, and Emberlyn did the same next to him. Do you think if you apologize to me, I'll forgive you that easily? Don't underestimate me. What do you think I've been doing for the past 40 years supporting you? The two of them, who had been looking down, hesitantly looked up at my unexpected ferocity. Do you want to sign the divorce agreement here and now, or do you want to go to a court case you have no chance of winning? I'll let you choose. Going to court would be a hassle. It would take both time and money, but this consolation payment is outrageous. That's right, it's absurd. Oh, have you forgotten? I pulled out a sheet of paper from my bag. Pledge. We will never meet again. If we break this promise, we will accept any demands. It was that one piece of paper that had been tucked into my diary from 10 years ago. During the first affair scandal, I had made it in a rush and had them both sign it. It says here you'll do anything. This kind of thing is invalid now. That's right. Then let's go to court. Well, right, you haven't received your retirement money yet. If we're going to court, I'll make sure to contact the company so you can't spend the money freely. My husband was silent for a while, looking down, but after a moment he muttered, Understood, and raised his head. Good, now sign this. But $195,000 for consolation money, that's just too much. Even I could see that. It's just over $4,850 per year for the 40 years I've supported you. You're saying even that's too much? I don't want to equate our 40 years of marriage to money, but if I don't say this much, I'm sure he wouldn't understand. Truth be told, the lawyer also said this amount was too high, but during the creation of the agreement, I was told I could ask for whatever I wanted, so I pushed for it. But can't you reduce the amount a bit? I need to live after this, and there's the mortgage for this apartment. If that's the case, why not sell the apartment? Of course, if you sell it now, it'll be a lot cheaper than the original price, so it'll be a loss. That's what I'm saying, so understand, please. Don't start acting sweet now. The only thing I understand is that you two will live a miserable life because you'll have no money. After saying what I wanted to say, I left the rest to the lawyer and left the room. In the end, the consolation money was reduced to $80,000. Still, they couldn't afford the mortgage and had to put the apartment up for sale, but they couldn't get the price they wanted and ended up in heavy debt. My ex-husband had no choice but to start working day labor jobs, and Emberlyn started working at a bar. Even then, they didn't have enough money to live and were constantly fighting. I never thought I would start living alone at this age, but being able to use my time freely now is very comfortable. Lately, I've been into traveling all over the place by myself, and I'm planning to go abroad in the future. There's still plenty of life left to enjoy.